Well, now for a story about an amazing Australian woman that will restore your faith in humanity. About 30 years ago, this woman and I first met when living on campus at Newman College at Melbourne University. We were both girls from the country, me of course from Victoria, whereas she hailed from a farm near Guyra in northern New South Wales, the only girl in a family of 7 brothers. She was studying science, I was studying law. I showed her around Melbourne and she took me to my first B&S ball and introduced me to rum and coke. Then and there we became lifelong friends. Those of us who knew Gemma Rice in those days at Newman always knew she was someone special. We all knew she would go on to make her mark on the world in a way that would do us and her family proud. But none of us could have known the path she would take and the life-changing impact she's had on so many, but most particularly a whole generation of young Tanzanians through her love of education. After graduating with an honours degree in genetics and later picking up a dip ed, Gemma Rice took off to Africa to teach. Along the way, she met her husband, a local man, Richard Sisia, and had the dream of building a boarding school to educate the future leaders of her new homeland, Tanzania. Well, fast forward a couple of decades and that dream is a reality. It's called the School of St Jude and it's a co-ed boarding school from primary school age right through to year 12. There's also now a school for girls, 1,800 students across the various campuses. And with the support of so many Australians, especially those connected with Rotary, the School of St Jude quite literally is changing lives and Tanzania for the better. Along the way, I might add, she and Richard had their own family of 4. How she juggles it all is beyond me. And I'm pleased to say, delighted to say, my dear friend Gemma Sisia joins me now in the studio with one of her brilliant student success stories, Enoch Ephraim. Great to have you on the program. Fabulous that you're here in Australia. When you set out to create this school, I remember you saying to me, Creds, I want to educate the brightest kids, but the poorest kids. I want them to be future leaders of Tanzania. Why was that so important?
I think because when I grew up, I was very aware of education. You know, I saw Mum and Dad really struggle to put all of us and my brothers all through good schools in Australia. So I was aware of what parents did for their children in the name of education. And then some of my first sponsors were good friends like yourself. And so I wanted to make sure that the child that you sponsor really appreciates the investment. And so scholarship programs all around the world are competitive and not enough support, you know, not enough scholarships to go around. And so we felt that the best way to select students for scholarships is to find children who are really, really poor, but who are super bright and who would never have the means to go to a good private school. And that's what we do up to today.
So you've had kids go all the way through now and come out the other end, they're at university level. Tell us what some of them are doing.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, my mother-in-law had an issue with asthma, so I had to take her to the hospital with my husband. And lo and behold, who's standing there in the emergency is Dr. Hosianna that went to school with Enoch in his class. So I totally forgot my mother-in-law's sick and I'm just all in tears to have one of my alumni at the hospital.
You've got them studying university in the US and all around the world, haven't you?
Yeah, so currently we have over 350 students at university, about 49 universities across Africa and outside Africa.
Wow. So Enoch, this is your first trip to Australia. Help us understand how much getting into the School of St Jude changed your life, but also the life of your family.
Getting the opportunity to join St Jude's has been life-changing. Not just for me, but for my entire family. I normally tell Gemma, it feels like my whole family went to St Jude's because me getting the opportunity to join St Jude's, my education and it helped me teach my younger siblings. But also after getting a scholarship to the US, I had like 2-3 campus jobs that helped me pay for my university education for my 2 other siblings.
And what did you do at university in the US?
I did financial economics and business.
Wow.
Yeah.
You and I have often talked about the fact that I think it breaks the hearts of lots of Australians to see a free education in this country be something that kids don't necessarily always value. I mean, we have very high truancy rates in some remote parts of this country. How is it that we struggle to get kids to go to school in some parts, but you've got cases where kids will walk 3 or 4 days just to sit your entrance exam? Why does it work over there and not here?
I think because there aren't very many schools. So in Tanzania, we have 60 million people. We have over 19,000 primary schools, but only 800 high schools. A school that goes up to like 11 and 12. Mm-hmm. So there are 19,000 schools full of children in primary, and the government has to cull 2/3 of them to see who gets a place in the secondary. So when kids enter primary school, they already know that they've got a very low chance of getting into secondary school. For example, it's really, really hard to find any parents at St Jude who've got a secondary education. Enoch's mum and dad both don't have a secondary education. And so from the time they start school in Tanzania, they're working really hard, hoping that they will get selected for one of the few secondary schools in the country.
And there's no safety net either, is there, in Tanzania?
Yeah, if you fail, you're out. Survival of the fittest, very, a bit cutthroat. Mm. But here in Australia, we're so blessed to have a school where you can go. Everyone can go to secondary school here. Mm.
That's probably why we don't.
And I think we all just take it for granted.
Yeah. Mm. Gemma's always said she's really big on students when they finish at St Jude's giving back. Mm. What does that mean, Enoch?
As Gemma explained, not so many people get this opportunity, and it's a scholarship. It's super competitive. So it comes with a bit of a burden, all right? Mm-hmm. So I got this opportunity. It's my responsibility to help other people or other students who didn't get this opportunity. And we grow up in families, big families, so it comes a bit natural to appreciate this opportunity, but also using the education and the skills to help other people.
And you're back working at the school now?
Yes.
It's funny because he's got such a good education. Any corporate in Tanzania would just grab him to work because he's had an international education. So 20 years ago, he was one of our students that we gave charity to with a scholarship, and now he's using St Jude's as his charity. So it's a bit like a vocation. He's back at St Jude's helping our year 11 and 12s to apply for international scholarships that he once got years ago.
And you've got a really special relationship with Rotary. I mean, if it wasn't for the generosity of Rotarians and Australians, you couldn't do what you do. That's been part of the success, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. So the budget that we need to raise, so we started with 3 kids, as you know, 20 years ago. Now there's 3 schools, there's 350 students at university, there's 350 staff. It's about 92% of our annual budget, which is this year we have to fundraise a bit over $8 million US. 92% of that comes from Australians.
Wow.
And so nobody can tell me that Australians are not philanthropic. And many Rotary clubs help, Rotarians help. The first classrooms were built by Rotarians. I've always said that if Rotary didn't help me at the beginning, the school wouldn't exist. Luckily, when I went to my local Rotary club in Armidale and said, I want to build some classrooms to start a school, thankfully they didn't ask me for a business plan. They just...
How can people, if people want to get involved, if they're watching tonight and they say, I want my money to go somewhere that I can see it, actually make a difference, how can they help?
Well, Enoch and many others have finished their education there, but we have about 150 students who we've just enrolled this year who don't have sponsors of their scholarships. So if someone can help with sponsoring a scholarship, that would help. Come and visit the school, make a donation, or simply do what you're doing and talking about it and help spread the word.
All right, I'll put all the information up for people at home to get to the School of St Jude. This is my wonderful friend Gemma Sisia. I know there's lots of Newman people watching tonight. I know you're all as proud of her as I am tonight. So if you can help the School of St Jude in Tanzania, please do. And now it's got a pretty fantastic Australian connection. I put all the details up there for Gemma Sisia anyway. There's a new book out if you want to read her wonderful story. As I said, every single kid, all 1,800 of them, are on full scholarship. No one pays a fee because they are so poor but so wonderfully bright.